shoddy workmanship have emerged at the inquiry into the collapse of a section of the Tongaat Mall outside Durban. 2 people died and 29 people were injured when part of the mall collapsed while it was being constructed in November last year. The Commission of Inquiry heard today that steel bars needed to reinforce a beam holding a concrete slab were missing. The owner of Mboyisa Steel Fixing Services testified that his team had fitted 19 steel bars in the beam in accordance with the engineer's plans. When the Commission head asked what if there were only 7 beams, Sipho Mboyisa, the owner, said he would have been shocked. The inquiry is being headed by Labour Department Manager Pomodzo Mapaha. The Commission is expected to prepare a report on its findings and formulate recommendations to be presented to the Labour Minister and the National Prosecuting Authority. Earlier it heard from the site foreman that the concrete slab sagged by 7 centimetres in the days leading up to that collapse. Meanwhile, a conference will bring together engineers and built environment professionals from across Africa next week to discuss ways to attain and maintain world-class service delivery in Africa. The conference has been dubbed Civilution, referring to a revolution that perhaps needs to take place to improve the way the construction industry is viewed across the continent. It's being organised by the South African Institution of Civil Engineering. To discuss, we're joined by the CEO, Manglin Pillay. Great to have you with us,
Thank you very much.
Can we start with Tongaat? This man, Sipho Mboyisa, whose company was contracted in to fit steel bars, which sound very important. He said he had only 3 weeks training, a training certificate on how to read the drawings of the engineers. Is this the type of thing that calls for that civilution that you're talking about?
Absolutely. The issue that Civilution addresses is to bring in professionalism. On the issue that you've raised, what we're looking at is to get professional people who are registered with various engineering organizations and institutions, and certainly not only to be qualified and registered, but also to have experience. And Civilution will address that. This is on the ground where service delivery is actually happening, but also in the levels of tiers of government, at the universities. It's about reprofessionalizing and bringing back the professional ethos back into the industry. So this is one component that we're
Of course, there are different sectors across, if you look at the construction industry as a whole, say. But how bad is it out there? I mean, people hear things like this. I'm worried about walking into a shopping centre right now. Is it that bad?
Look, in general, this is what the media portrays. You know, the problems in the industry generally gets portrayed first. It's certainly not all doom and gloom. We've got excellent engineering people in the country. We're sought after worldwide. The technical skill, however, is sitting in the private sector, in consulting and contracting and so on. Where we do need them is in the public sector, where service delivery actually happens. So it's no. To answer your question directly, it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, we've got first world infrastructure. We compete with the best in the world, with the US, with the UK. So no, it's not all doom and gloom. And the public sector is where the inspections happen and things like that. So you need strong skills there to ensure that nobody's cutting corners. That's exactly right. What we're finding is that you would look for professionally registered technical staff. So in our case, it's engineers. We're looking for professionally registered engineers with the Engineering Council of South Africa, who are also members of institutions like ours, the South African Institution of Civil Engineering, and the other engineering bodies, but also with valid experience. You know, to have a young engineer who's probably a technician or a technologist or an engineer with 3 or 4 years of work experience heading up a municipality. Now that's totally unacceptable. What we do want is to have an engineer with a recognized degree in the country, who's registered, who is a member of the institutions, but also has substantial experience, 15, 20 years of experience. Now that guy could be the head honcho of service delivery in the local municipality. That's not the case.
Is that where we have real weakness in municipalities, and does this link at all to our potholes?
Yes, that is true, but it's also an economic issue, the potholes. There's only so much of money that's available from our government.
And it's municipal planning as well, when they get round to it.
Right. But look, it's a serious issue. You know, potholes and things like traffic lights not working and that affects the economy. So we should really up our game in that arena as well.
Because the reputation of everyone is tarnished, and the Tongaat Mall inquiry will get a lot of media coverage, is there a mechanism to name and shame engineers or construction companies, anybody who's bypassing regulations? So at least we know that's them, that's not everybody else.
Right. Look, I think also we must, yes, I think it's, to answer your question very quickly, yes, there is validity in naming and shaming, but we must also remember that these companies employ thousands of people. To simply, name and shame and get them off the business sector.
Because it could just be individuals.
Correct. So we would advocate that we tackle the individuals, those decision makers, and to work with the councils, to work with the Department of Labour, to work with the Competitions Commission and deal with the individuals. So one needs to find that balance, I suppose. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Civilution, this conference next week. Who will attend? What are you hoping to achieve?
Civilution is a phenomenal concept. Engineering is at the forefront of the country's strategy for its overall aspirations. There's a national development plan. There's the new growth path. Our president has been talking about the trillions of rands in infrastructure. However, the lack of technical skill in the public sector has not seen rollout of these projects. And the engineers that are in the private sector are feeling somewhat despondent.
Because they're waiting.
They're waiting for the project rollout. This is job creation. It's work for the engineers. And again, engineers, we're known for being involved in strategy. We're problem solvers, so we want to be involved. But the projects aren't being rolled out. Now, instead of complaining and sitting on the sidelines, the question to our engineers nationwide is, how do we become part of the solution? Who do we engage? Who wants to engage us? We're hoping it's national government. All the way from the president right down through the municipalities. Engage the engineers because we have the skill. So Civilution is a movement to attract national government and all the other tiers of government to the engineers and vice versa, so that we can collaboratively become part of the solution.
And you're even talking about collaboration with other engineers across Africa.
Across Africa, we've got an organization called the Southern African Federation of Engineering Organizations. The secretariat for that organization resides here in South Africa. We also have the Federation of African Engineering Organizations, which is a conglomerate of all the African countries from an engineering perspective. The president of that organization is South African. So the time now is most opportune to attract business opportunities, exchange, licensing for engineers and infrastructure development, sharing ideas and so on. This is the best time to do that, we believe.
All right, well, it sounds like a great initiative. Thank you for your time this evening. That was Manglin Pillay from the Institute of Civil Engineering.